The one where no one's ready is such an iconic Friends episode. This is the second episode of the third season, directed by Gail Mancuso, and there are so many things in this that are just so ridiculously iconic. What's really interesting about this as well is that the whole episode takes place in Monica and Rachel's apartment. And when a sitcom utilizes just one space, and when they do it well, it can be really great. And this is a really great example of how to do that effectively without anything feeling stale or anything feeling like they're dragging their heels with the narrative, because this is so quick. And what's also great is that it happens in real time, because at the start of the episode, they have 20 something minutes to get ready and leave the apartment to go to Ross's event, to go to the museum benefit. And obviously, everybody is trying to get ready. Nobody is ready, as the title suggests, and each character is dealing with their own situation, apart from Ross. Ross is just there to try and get everybody ready. David Schwimmer looks very fine in his formal wear. Everybody else, apart from Phoebe comes over in a beautiful yellow dress, but something happens. So there will be spoilers from this point on as I go into a little bit of detail about personal highlights, things I love with this, things that I think work really well, and also something that happened to Matt LeBlanc, which I feel most people know by this point, but just in case you don't know, it's a behind the scenes, something that makes this episode very interesting even more. So spoilers from now. Phoebe, as I was going to say, something happens. She gets hummus on her dress, and when I used to watch this as a child, I'd never had hummus. And this episode actually encouraged me to try hummus. I'm very much a don't mind hummus, I'll take it or leave it. But, credit to this episode for encouraging me to try it. Phoebe is just brilliant in this episode. Rachel, I feel like, overreacted. Rachel goes into a bit of a mood because Ross demands that she hurries up and gets ready. But I have to say, I'm with Ross on this one. If you've got to leave the house in 20-something minutes and you don't even know what you're wearing yet, and you're fashion conscious as much as Rachel is, that's really ridiculous. So actually, I think Rachel overreacted, and Ross had every right to get annoyed at her for not taking his event seriously. Monica, I'm actually really surprised. I don't necessarily believe that Monica would leave it until the last minute to arrive home before going out for an event. So I think that was a little bit out of character for her, but it worked within the realms of the narrative because they needed her to have not been in the house so that she can come into the house or into the home and listen to the message from Richard. Is it old or new? Well, that's the big question. And I like the fact that actually, even though it showed Monica was feeling a lot of raw emotions about the breakup with Richard still, they just had fun with it. It was just funny. And I think it worked very, very well. For me, the highlight though is Chandler and Joey and stealing of the seat and could I be wearing any more clothes? It is easily the most iconic thing in this episode of Joey wearing all of the clothes, and I just absolutely love it, and it's so funny and so effective, and it just always puts a smile on my face. And the interesting thing here, which makes watching the rest of this episode really fascinating, is that, and as I said, most people know this now, but in case you don't, the moment where Joey jumps onto the chair so Chandler can't get to it, Matt LeBlanc actually dislocated his shoulder. And that's why in the episodes after this, Joey's wearing a sling on his arm. They write it into the narrative because Matt LeBlanc really damaged his shoulder. But to think, as far as I'm aware, he just carried on filming. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to double check. Feel free to provide me with this information if you know it. But to think that he'd done that damage after filming this and then watching the rest of this episode play out after that scene, it's fascinating. It's commitment. But also, I cannot watch this without knowing what happened to Matt LeBlanc and kind of feeling that pain the moment he dives into the chair. So it's very, very well done, but it definitely gives it a bit more background context that's a little bit, makes me wince, put it that way. But this is easily one of my favourite episodes, not just because it's funny and because it's got some iconic moments, because it's it's also a really great example of how to use just one space and have everything playing out in real time and doing it effectively. I think if they did this for every episode, we'd never get proper character development or narrative development, but for this episode, it worked beautifully. They did a great job with it. I think everybody looked brilliant in their formal wear, wear appropriate, And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The one where no one's ready is absolutely one of the best Friends episodes of all time.